The chamber was silent except for faint, uneven rasp of the alien princess's breathing. The vaulted ceiling shimmered with crystalline veins of light, casting faint glows that pulsed in rhythm with the dying girl's heartbeat, slow, weak, nearly gone. Rows of her royal kin stood in a solemn semicircle, their scaled skin catching the glow like polished metal. Their eyes, larger and darker than humans, were fixed on her pale, trembling form. No one dared to speak. It was as if a single word might snap the thin thread, holding her to life. Ethan Hale had never felt so out of place in his entire life. The human explorer stood just inside the massive chamber doors, boots heavy on the luminous stone floor, the weight of dozens of alien stairs pressing against his back. He hadn't asked to be here. He hadn't asked to be dragged through the palace corridors, shoved by guards armed with spears that hummed faintly with hidden energy. But he had seen the princess collapse during the ceremony in the courtyard, and when he tried to help, their royal soldiers had taken his action as audacity or blasphemy. Only the queen's raised hand had stopped him from cutting him down on the spot. Now, against all reason, he found himself in the very heart of the Empire, staring at a dying alien girl who looked only barely older than himself. Her body was covered in delicate ceremonial robes, embroidered with shifting silver glyphs that moved like living ink across the fabric. Her face was angular, otherworldly, framed by threads of iridescent hair that spilled across the pillow beneath her head. Though her features were strange, there was no mistaking the fragility in her trembling lips, the slight flutter of her eyelids, or the sharp, shallow breaths that rattled in her chest. She was dying, and everyone in the chamber knew it. A line of healers had already made their attempts. Ethan had watched one after another press clawed hands over her chest, chant in guttural tones, and release faint pulses of bioluminescent energy from their palms. Each time, nothing happened. If anything, her breathing grew weaker. When the last of them withdrew, bowing his head in shame, a ripple of despair ran to the gathered royals. Some covered their faces. Others hissed soft laments. And then it happened. Ethan shifted his stance, nerves gnawing at him, and his boot slipped slightly against the smooth stone. To keep his balance, he flung out a hand. His fingers grazed the princess's bare wrist, just a tap, light as a whisper. He hadn't meant to touch her at all. The reaction was instantaneous. A shock jolted up his arm, not painful, but sharp and warm, like dipping his hand into sunlight. His breath caught as pale golden light bloomed from beneath his fingertips, spreading across her wrist, up her arm, and into her chest. The glow intensified, threading to the veins visible beneath her translucent skin. Gasps erupted in the chamber. Ethan tried to pull his hand away, but he couldn't. Or maybe he didn't want to. The warmth flowed through him into her, and with it, something deep, something he didn't understand, unspooled from his very core. His pulse thundered in his ears, echoing with hers. The princess stirred. Her lips parted. Her breath, once shallow and ragged, deepened. The faint rattle in her chest smoothed into rhythm. Her skin, moments ago the color of fading embers, flushed with vitality. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes of radiant silver. They locked onto his with startling clarity. For the first time since Ethan had entered the chamber, the alien royals broke their composure. The queen gasped aloud, her long fingers tightening on the throne's armrest. The king's brow furrowed, his voice a low growl that reverberated through the hall. Guards tensed, spears rising as if to strike. Nobles hissed, some with awe, some with outrage. A priest fell to his knees, muttering prayers in a tongue Ethan didn't know. "He touched her," someone cried. "Blasphemy," another roared. "No, a miracle," whispered a third. Ethan stumbled back, finally tearing his hand away, though the warmth lingered in his palm. His heart hammered against his ribs, his mind spinning with disbelief. What the hell just happened? The princess pushed herself up slightly, coughing but alive. Her gaze never left him. Her lips moved, her voice weak but carrying. "Not blasphemy," she whispered in her alien tongue. The words were broken, but the meaning was clear enough. The queen rose to her feet, her tall figure casting a long shadow across the chamber. Her eyes, bright and dangerous, fixed on Ethan. "What are you, human?" she demanded. Her voice rang with authority, with fury, but beneath it, just barely, was a note of fear. Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came. He had no answer. He was just a man, a pilot, an explorer, nothing more. And yet, he glanced at the princess, who was breathing steady now, color restored, her fingers flexing with new strength. Nothing more, and somehow, something else entirely. The chamber filled with voices. Some demanded his execution for daring to touch royal flesh. Others pleaded for him to be studied, to be questioned, to be preserved. The guards advanced, uncertain whether to seize him or bow to him. Through it all, the princess's eyes never left Ethan's face. Weak as she was, she reached out a trembling hand toward him. "Stay," she whispered. The room fell silent. For the first time, Ethan realized his accidental tap had bound him to something far larger than himself. He was no longer just an outsider in this alien palace. By some impossible twist of fate, he was now tied to the survival of their princess, perhaps even the fate of their empire. And the royals, watching it with a mixture of awe and terror, knew it too. The following hours passed in a haze of confusion, tension, and whispered arguments that never seemed to end. Ethan had been escorted from the princess's chamber into a side hall, the walls glittering faintly as if veins of light ran through the stone itself. For guards stood around him in rigid formation, their glowing spears angled toward his chest. Their expressions were unreadable, alien yet hostile enough to make his throat dry. He could still feel the lingering warmth in his hand, the strange energy that had pulsed through him when he touched her. It hadn't faded. It was as if something inside him had been awakened, humming quietly beneath his skin. He flexed his fingers, half expecting light to spill from his palm again. Nothing, only a faint tremor. Through the open archway at the end of the hall, Ethan could hear the royal family arguing. Their voices were raised, harsh, guttural, though he could not understand every word. A translator implant in his ear caught pieces: dangerous, prophecy, outsider, savior. Finally, the queen herself entered. She was taller than most of the others, her iridescent robes trailing behind her like flowing water. Her face was stern, her dark eyes sharp enough to pierce through him. She stopped a few feet away, her guards falling back at a gesture. "You," she said, her tone heavy. "Explain what you did to my daughter." Ethan swallowed. "I don't know," he admitted. "I didn't mean to. I just touched her. It was an accident." A ripple of hisses echoed among the guards. The queen's expression didn't change, but her gaze deepened, as if trying to measure the truth inside him. "Accident," she repeated, almost spitting the word. "And yet," she breathes, "my healers failed. My priests failed. You, a stranger, succeed." She stepped closer, towering over him. "That is no accident." Before Ethan could respond, a soft voice spoke from behind her. "Mother." The princess stood in the doorway, weak but upright. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Her skin still bore the pallor of illness, yet she carried herself with quiet determination. Every guard in the room instantly knelt, heads bowed. "Mother," she said again, firmer this time, "he is not to be harmed." The queen stiffened. "My daughter, you should rest." "I felt it," the princess interrupted. She placed a hand over her chest. "When he touched me, it was not poison nor sorcery. It was life. It pulled me back. He saved me." Ethan blinked, stunned. She was speaking in her own tongue, yet somehow the words resonated in his implant with unusual clarity, as if her voice carried more than sound, an imprint of meaning itself. The queen glanced between them, her jaw tightening. After a long pause, she turned sharply toward the guards. "Take him to the inner quarters. He is to remain under constant watch. If he attempts escape, kill him. If he touches anyone else, kill him." The princess swayed slightly, but her eyes never left Ethan's. "And if he dies," she whispered, "so do I." The word silenced the hall. The queen's eyes narrowed, her expression unreadable. At last, she raised a hand. "Very well. He lives. For now." The days that followed were nothing short of surreal. Ethan found himself housed in a chamber of carved crystal, walls shifting in color with the time of day. Guards shadowed his every step. Meals of unfamiliar fruits and glowing broth were delivered on trays that seemed to levitate without contact. And every morning, without fail, the princess herself appeared. She came escorted by her handmaidens, yet always insisted they wait outside once she entered. Sometimes she sat across from him in silence, studying him as though he were some ancient relic. Other times she spoke, haltingly, testing the limits of the translator between them. Her name was Serena. "You are different," she said on the second morning, her voice soft but steady. "When you touched me, it was not only flesh. It was as if your spirit reached into mine." Ethan shook his head. "I don't know how. Humans can't do that. At least, I've never heard of it." She tilted her head, silver hair catching the light. "Perhaps you were chosen." The word unsettled him. Chosen by who? She smiled faintly, though there was sadness in it. By the stars, or by fate. Our people believe the cosmos weaves threads between souls. Maybe yours and mine were bound long before you stepped into our halls. Ethan had no answer. All he knew was that when she spoke, he felt that strange warmth stirring again, just below the surface of his skin. But outside their meetings, suspicion grew. The court was divided. Some nobles insisted Ethan was a sign of blessing, a living miracle sent to preserve the royal bloodline. Others hissed that he was a threat, a spy planted by enemies, his power nothing more than dangerous sorcery. The priests debated prophecy, poring over ancient glyphs that spoke of a star-touched who would rise in the empire's darkest hour. Ethan caught snippets of these arguments whenever the guards whispered each other. He knew his presence was shaking the empire's foundations. And yet, he couldn't leave. Not when Serena asked for him each day. She insisted on his touch. Sometimes just a hand placed gently over hers, sometimes his palm against her forehead. Each time, she said she felt stronger. Her skin warmed, her breathing eased, her color returned. Once, when she collapsed from weakness in the garden, Ethan instinctively caught her. The moment their skin met, light sparked again. She gasped, then stood straighter, life flowing back into her veins. The handmaidens had seen it. They had gasped just as the royals had. By nightfall, the rumor had spread to the palace like wildfire. The human's touch was healing magic. That night, as Ethan lay awake in his chamber, he overheard two guards speaking in low tones outside his door. "If he is the star-touched," one whispered, "then he is too dangerous to keep alive. He could command the throne itself. But the princess is blinded by gratitude. When she no longer needs him, he will be removed." Ethan closed his eyes, dread tightening his chest. He was walking a razor's edge, hailed as a savior one moment, marked for death the next. One evening, Serena arrived later than usual. She looked tired, her expression clouded, but her eyes lit when she saw him. "They argue still," she said quietly, lowering herself onto the seat opposite him. "Half the court wants your head, half wants your blessing. They fight like carrion over a carcass." Ethan grimaced. "That carcass is me, huh?" Her lips twitched in the faintest smile. "Yes." Silence stretched between them, heavy with truths neither could deny. Finally, Serena leaned forward, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "They will never let you go," she whispered. "Not while I live. You are too important, too dangerous. But know this." She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. The warmth flared instantly, coursing through them both. She inhaled sharply. "Know that you are not alone here. Whatever happens, I will stand by you." For a moment, Ethan could only stare at her, the glow between their hands painting their faces with faint gold. Outside the chamber, unseen, a shadow lingered in the corridor, listening, watching, and plotting. The palace at night was not silent. Though the crystalline halls gleamed with tranquil light, shadows slithered between them, whispers, hurried steps, the metallic scrape of armor shifting in secret. Ethan could feel it even from his chamber, where he sat staring at his hands. His palms had long since stopped glowing, but the memory of that warmth never left him. He could almost summon it if he focused hard enough, a faint hum beneath his skin. It both comforted and terrified him. Serena had not visited that day. The queen had barred her from leaving her quarters, claiming she needed rest. Ethan suspected the truth was more complicated. The court had grown restless. He'd seen it in their stares, heard it in their muttered words. Half of them worshipped him. The other half wanted him dead. And some, he realized with a chill, were done waiting. The attack came suddenly. One moment the corridor outside his door was quiet. The next, the crystal walls flared red with warning sigils, and a shrill alarm reverberated through the palace. Ethan jumped to his feet just as the door burst inward. 3 figures in dark armor surged inside, blades flashing with a sickly green glow. Their movements were swift, deliberate assassins, not guards. Ethan backed away, heart slamming in his chest. He had no weapon, no training, nothing but panic coursing through him. "Stay back!" he shouted instinctively, as if words could hold him off. The first assassin lunged. Ethan stumbled, throwing up his hands. Reflex took over, reflex or something deeper. Light flared from his palms, blinding in its intensity. The assassin screamed. Armor sizzling where the glow touched it, and collapsed in a smoking heap. The other 2 hesitated. Ethan stared at his hands, horror and awe twisting inside him. He hadn't tried to summon it. It had just happened. The hesitation broke. Both assassins lunged at once. Ethan ducked the first, felt the second's blade slice through the air inches from his throat. His instinct screamed, not to run, but to reach. He seized the arm of the closest attacker. Light flared again, coursing from his grip into the alien's body. The assassin convulsed violently, then crumpled lifeless to the floor. The third backed away, snarling through a mask. Before Ethan could react, the figure hurled a dagger of green fire at his chest. It never struck. Serena stood in the doorway, her silver eyes blazing. She raised one trembling hand, and the dagger dissolved in midair, scattering into sparks. "Enough!" she hissed. The assassin froze. Her guards were not far behind. Within moments, they stormed the chamber and dragged the would-be killer away, kicking and screaming. Serena hurried to Ethan's side. Her hand touched his arm, and at once the warmth surged between them again, brighter than ever before. She gasped softly, silver eyes widening. "You're stronger," she whispered. Ethan swallowed hard. His chest heaved, adrenaline still raging through him. "They tried to kill me," he said, voice raw, "and I killed them instead." He looked down at his glowing hands, trembling. "What's happening to me?" Serena's fingers tightened around his arm. "It is not death you bring. It is judgment. Your gift awakens in response to intent. They struck with malice. You return their darkness with light." He shook his head. "That's not me. I'm not some warrior prophet. I'm just a guy who crash-landed in the wrong place." But Serena only studied him, her expression unreadable. "The wrong place," she murmured, "or exactly where the stars needed you to be?" The council convened at dawn. Ethan stood in the center of the chamber, guards flanking him. The slain assassin's body laid at his feet as evidence. Nobles hissed accusations, priests muttered prayers, and generals demanded answers. "He is dangerous," one noble cried, pointing a clawed finger at him. "Did you not see the corpse? His power burns flesh like acid." "He saved the princess again," another countered. "Would you prefer she lie dying still?" "Prophecy," one of the priests intoned, raising a staff. "The scrolls speak of a star-touched, who carries fire in his veins and light in his hands. He is both salvation and ruin. We must decide which he will be." The queen sat upon her throne, silent to the storm of voices. Finally, she raised a hand, and silence rippled outward like a command, her dark eyes fixed on Ethan. "Human," she said, "you kill with a touch. You heal with a touch. Which are you, curse or blessing?" Ethan's mouth went dry. He looked around at the expectant faces, then at Serena, who stood beside her throne, watching him with quiet faith. He swallowed. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I never asked for this. I didn't even know I could do it until I touched her. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to be your prophecy. I just want to survive." The hall stirred with murmurs. Some scoffed, Others nodded. The queen's gaze lingered on him, unreadable. Then Serenia stepped forward. Her voice rang clear, cutting through the noise. He is not curse. He is hope. Twice now his touch has saved me. Twice it has defended me from death. Whatever the stars wove, they did so to bind him to my life. If you would call him danger, then so am I, and I will not cast him aside. A stunned hush fell. Never before had the princess spoken so boldly against her court. The queen's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never felt more exposed or more indebted than in that moment, but hope was short-lived. That night, Serenia came to him in secret, her robe hooded, her movements swift and quiet. She slipped into his chamber, her expression grim. "They will not stop," she whispered. "The faction that sent the assassins grows bold. They will try again, not only at you, at me. They believe if I die, the throne will fall into their hands." Ethan frowned. "Then we have to expose them. Tell your mother, the queen." "My mother knows," Serenia said bitterly. "But politics binds her hands. If she accuses a wrong faction, civil war will erupt. Our enemies wait beyond the stars for that weakness." She gripped his hand tightly, her silver eyes burning. "You must survive, Ethan, not for me alone, but for my people. Your gift is the key to our future. I feel it." Ethan met her gaze, the warmth flaring between their hands once more. He wanted to deny it, to insist he was just an accident caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was already part of this. Whether he wanted it or not, their fates were bound. Somewhere in the palace shadows, unseen eyes watched them. A hooded figure slipped away, carrying news to waiting conspirators. The time for whispers was ending. Soon, the empire itself would burn with betrayal. The skies above the capital burned. Ethan had never seen anything like it. Enemy warships descended through the upper atmosphere, their hulls streaked in fire as they broke through. The city's defense towers answered with volleys of crackling plasma, but for every hostile vessel that fell, two more forced their way through the smoke. The invasion had begun. Within the palace, chaos reigned. Courtiers fled through crystal corridors, guards sprinted to their posts, and the thunder of distant explosions shook the walls. The conspirators had chosen their moment perfectly. With the royal court divided, their allies in the shadows had opened the gates to a rival empire. And in the middle of it all stood Ethan Hale, a human who still barely understood how his touch could heal or harm. Serenia found him in the chaos. Her silver robes were torn, her hair tangled, but her eyes burned brighter than ever. She seized his hand, her grip strong despite her frailty. "They're here for me," she said breathlessly. "If I fall, the empire falls with me. You must not leave my side." Ethan nodded, though his stomach churned with fear. "I won't. But Serenia, I can't promise I can control this." He raised his hand, trembling. "I don't even know what I am." Her gaze softened. "You are what the stars made you. That is enough." Before he could answer, the chamber doors shattered inward. Enemy soldiers in black armor poured through, weapons glowing with sickly green fire. The palace guards fought valiantly, but the enemy pressed hard. In the confusion, one soldier's blade struck true. Ethan heard Serenia cry out. She collapsed against him, blood spreading across her robes. Her eyes fluttered, her breathing shallow, so terribly familiar to that first moment when he had touched her. "No!" Ethan whispered, his heart freezing. He lowered her gently to the ground, panic roaring in his veins. "Not again. Please, not again." The warmth surged within him, desperate, uncontrollable. He pressed his hands to her wound, light spilling from his palms. It poured into her chest, into her fading heartbeat. But the gash was deep, the life pouring out of her too quickly. She coughed weakly, her hand brushing his cheek. "Ethan, don't fear. I can't lose you," he shouted, the chamber spinning around him. "You pull me into this madness, and I don't care what prophecy says. You're not dying, not now." Something broke inside him, or perhaps something finally awakened. The warmth became fire. It roared through him, not burning, but blazing with impossible brilliance. his vision filled with light as it surged into Serenia's body. For a heartbeat, he thought it would consume them both. Then the glow spread outward, rippling across the chamber in waves. Every enemy soldier froze, their weapons dissolving into motes of light. The guards gasped as wounds knitted closed before their eyes. The shattered walls of the chamber were formed, crystal gleaming as if newly born. And in Ethan's arms, Serenia's wound closed. Her breathing steadied. Her silver eyes opened, brighter than starlight. The soldiers dropped to their knees, overcome by terror or awe. The palace guards did the same. Only Serenia remained upright, her gaze locked on Ethan. "You see," she whispered, her voice carrying in the stunned silence. The stars wove him for this moment. Word of the miracle spread like wildfire. By the time the enemy fleet regrouped, they faced an empire united, not fractured. With Serenia standing tall at the palace gates, Ethan at her side, the sight alone broke the invaders' will. Their ships fled back into the heavens, their generals cursing the day they had set foot on the Empire's soil. The conspirators were dragged into the open. Some were executed, others exiled, but none could deny the new reality. The princess lived, and the human outsider had saved her not once, but 3 times. In the weeks that followed, the Empire rebuilt. Crystals shattered in the assault, regrew in gleaming spires. The people whispered Ethan's name in markets and temples alike, some calling the healer, others the star-touched. Children painted his likeness beside Serenia's on banners that fluttered across the capital. Ethan himself struggled with the weight of it. He had never wanted worship. He had never sought to be anyone's savior. But wherever he went, hands reached out for his blessing. And though he resisted, a strange truth gnawed at him. When his skin brushed theirs, warmth always followed. One evening, standing atop a balcony that overlooked the reborn city, Serenia joined him. The glow of the setting sun turned her hair to silver fire. "You still doubt," she said softly. Ethan exhaled, his grip on the railing tight. "I'm no hero, Serenia. I didn't plan any of this. I'm just some guy who tripped at the wrong time." She stepped closer, laying a hand over his. The warmth sparked instantly, steady and strong. "Or the right time," she whispered. "If you were anyone else, I would not be here. My people would not be here. Do you still call that accident?" He looked at her then, really looked, at the strength in her eyes, the quiet faith that had carried them through. Slowly he shook his head. "No, I guess not." For a moment neither spoke. The air was filled with the hum of the city, the laughter of children below, the quiet hope that spread like light across the empire. At last, Serenia turned to him, her gaze soft. "The stars may have chosen, Ethan, but it was your heart that made you stay." Ethan smiled faintly, the weight on his chest lifting. "Then maybe I'll stay a little longer." Serenia's lips curved in the smallest smile. "Good, because this is only the beginning." And as the stars rose over the alien capital, Ethan realized that what began as a stumble in a chamber of despair had become something far greater. Not just survival, not just accident, but destiny.